What's up, fellow Hoops fan? Welcome back to another episode of the Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV, brought to you by our great mates over there at topsport.com.au. Friday morning, BK Fridays. BK's in the building. My man, how you doing?
BK Fridays, the best club night in the city. What's going on, my man?
It really does sound like an early 2000s club night catchphrase, doesn't it, man? Everything's good over here, man. We're getting in towards the end of the regular season, so a lot of things to keep an eye on. We're going to jump straight into it because probably the biggest news of yesterday certainly was the return of Kyrie Irving. Now, I believe it's going to be announced today. I'm not sure if it has been announced yet in America, but the New York City vaccine mandate for the private sector, which is the one that was affecting Kyrie Irving's ability to play inside Barclays Center, is set to be lifted, meaning that the Brooklyn Nets get Kyrie Irving back as a full-time player, potentially as early as the game on Monday morning, Australia time, which is against the Charlotte Hornets. BK, how huge is this for the playoffs?
This is a game changer for the Brooklyn Nets, because not only has Kyrie been hooping like crazy, like his last 5 games, like he's had a 60-point game, a 50-point game, a 40-point game. Like this guy is well rested, ready to rock for the postseason. And I mean, even though they don't have Ben Simmons, the duo of KD and Kyrie alone in every game, that for me is enough to still get the Nets deep into the postseason.
Yeah, I'm kind of like now with this, whether they get Ben Simmons back or not. And personally, I just don't like the looks of that in terms of getting him back this season. But like you said, just the fact that you've got a rested, healthy Kyrie that is hooping right now, it kind of changes my outlook on the Brooklyn Nets in terms of how far they can go. I'm still not at that championship level, but I think they could easily make a conference finals run from here. Prior to this news yesterday, I was kind of like thinking to myself, and this is just me thinking to myself, that, maybe the Nets were happy going in as that lower seed and playing a game 7 on the road. As long as you've got a Kyrie Irving available for that game, they kind of maybe would have backed themselves in that situation. That situation's gone out the window now because they're going to have him available for every single game. And this is going to be a dangerous Nets team, even if they are a 7 seed or an 8 seed.
Yeah, nobody's trying to see the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. I mean, first they have to get there. If things remain as they are, as the 8 seed, they'll play the Raptors in that 7-8 game for the play-in. That will be in Toronto, so Kyrie won't actually be able to play in that game because they've still got their mandates in place. But even if it's just Kevin Durant, I'm pretty confident he could take care of the Raptors. But yeah, what's waiting for them is one of the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, 76ers, or the Milwaukee Bucks. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, you're still going to be feeling pretty confident in the first round against any of those teams, which is somewhat of a disaster for those teams that have grinded all season to finish in that top 4, depending on how things shake out. But we all know what we want. We want Sixers Nets in the first round.
We did. Look, it would be great if Ben Simmons was healthy for that one there. Like I said, I don't know if that one's going to happen, but you're right. No one wants to play the Brooklyn Nets in the first round because they're going to be dangerous, and like you said, if you've grinded all season for that number 1 seed, like the Miami Heat, who we are actually going to talk about in a minute, because it seemed like yesterday things were imploding for them as well for a short period of time. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But Brooklyn, they seem like, out of those 4 teams that you mentioned, they could beat any single one of those teams, even without a Ben Simmons. So they're looking like they're primed now. And if they do end up making a championship run, like they're going to be the first team that went on a 11-game losing streak and came back and won an NBA championship, which is incredible in itself.
Yeah, that would just be a testament to the craziness of this season. But if you do come up against one of those teams in the first round and then make it through, you've taken out one of the contenders from the jump. So now you only really have to handle one other good team. Are we thinking in the conference finals? Like you'll have a pretty easy second round matchup if it shakes out that way. But I don't know, things are looking optimistic for the Brooklyn Nets. And then if you throw in maybe a Ben Simmons, we don't know where he's at. It still seems like he's some ways away from getting back to the court. But stranger things have happened. even if there is no sort of lead in time for Simmons and they can just throw him out there as a free safety to just play defense, that in itself is a problem. So to be honest, I'm just glad we get to see Kyrie hoop again, because these last sort of few games that we've seen from Kyrie just kind of reminds you that when he gets going, I don't know if there's a more entertaining player in the NBA. When Kyrie starts hezzying on people, shimmy and spit, like this guy is just, as Stephen A would say, he's box office.
Yeah, he's really reminded everyone that he's like a top 15, 20 player. Like there's not 15, 20 players in the world better than Kyrie Irving. And I think he's played, 18, 19 games. He's averaging like 27, 5 and 5 or something like that, which is absolutely ridiculous. So one question I got for you, BK, I want to get your thoughts on this real quick before we move on to the Miami Heat. Patty Mills had another quiet game yesterday. And by quiet, I mean, it was pretty much non-existent, 0 points. I believe he was like 0 of 3. He's been very, not even hot and cold recently. Like he had a 13-point game, I believe it was the other day, but he's been sort of more cold than hot lately. What do you attribute this to?
I mean, honestly, James Harden. We saw how good Patty Mills was playing alongside James Harden, whether it was, with the second unit or in that starting lineup, where he did have that sort of run of high scoring games. Because Harden is a playmaker, and he was great at finding Mills coming off screens, off curls, off pin downs. Like we saw how many easy buckets he was able to get. Kyrie's more of an isolation guy. He's going to go and get it himself. So for Patty, it's a tough one trying to sort of find his role, because his versatility and flexibility is one of his greatest strengths. And that's, a testament to him that he's able to kind of come in and adapt. But, we've seen him wear many different hats this season. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I think we're probably going to see him remain in that role coming off the bench, but it's how they sort of stagger those rotation minutes and try and get Patty more involved, because you're right. He has been quiet over these last sort of few games. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, you've got a 30-point guy in Kyrie Irving that's walked back into the lineup.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to have to sort of try and get his rhythm back or get his confidence back or whatever it may be for the playoffs, because I think they're going to need a guy like Patty Mills. All right, BK, moving on. We're going to talk about the Miami Heat now. Now, this, at the very least, provided quite a bit of fodder for us to talk about yesterday. We've got the tweet. We're going to show the clip, and then we're going to talk over it as we're showing it. So basically, it was during the third quarter of this game. The game was tied at 50 at halftime. Golden State go on a 19-0 run to start the third quarter. Miami call a timeout, and then they were getting into it. There was another clip that was circulating on the internet where, you could hear Eric Spoelstra saying to Jimmy Butler, "What, you want me to fucking fight you?" And then Udonis Haslem was, telling Jimmy Butler that I'm going to beat your ass, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So it seemed like it was pretty full on there. I think Spoelstra at some point looked like he threw the clipboard at Jimmy Butler. As we know, look, they had to be restrained over here. As we know, it was going to be attributed to competitiveness, and that's what they said post-game. They put it down to competitiveness. I think the Heat should have been mad that they were losing to the Warriors G League team to begin with. But BK, what did you make of all that yesterday?
Honestly, I don't think this is that big a deal. I mean, Kyle Lowry said after the game, we've got great leadership. It won't affect us at all. And, we hear about the Heat culture and the competitiveness of this team. I mean, we saw the Boston Celtics kind of go through this, not to this extent, but sometimes teams do kind of need that adversity to come together. And, it can break some teams and it can make some teams. And I think the character of the Miami Heat and the players they have in that locker room in PJ Tucker, Kyle Lowry, Adebayo, Butler, and of course the OG Udonis Haslem, they're strong enough characters that I think this is actually going to be helpful rather than harmful. But I mean, this is just a competitive team that was, as you said, they were getting whooped by the G League Warriors. I'd be mad too. It's nice to know Eric Spoelstra. Yeah, it's nice to know Eric Spoelstra's about that life. But I think it's one of those things that's probably a bit overblown. But at the same time, coming into the postseason, this is not ideal, right? Like this is not a team that's struggling. This is the number 1 seed.
Yeah, look, we've seen this before in the NBA. guys are competitive. You get a lot of sort of alpha males, for the lack of a better term, all together. Testosterone's flying high in a competitive environment. It's going to happen. We've seen it before. My only concern, this is the only thing that I thought about when I saw this, is Jimmy Butler. Now, not that he's been in these type of incidents, publicly before, like on court or anything like that, but he does have tend to have a history of wearing out his welcome with clubs. And we've seen it with Minnesota, we saw it with Chicago, we saw it with Philadelphia. For whatever reason, I always look at it and I'm like, well, what's the common denominator in all these things? And it's always Jimmy Butler, right? So I was looking at this yesterday and I'm like, is this something to do with Jimmy Butler? Does this go deeper than just competitiveness and sort of that on-court fieriness?
Yeah, to an extent. But then when I look at the situations Butler was in Minnesota, he was right. In Philadelphia, he was right. You know what I'm saying? Like Jimmy Butler's not the kind of guy. He's not a get along to go along kind of guy. He's going to tell you what's what. And that's why the Heat wanted him. This is the Jimmy Butler experience. And you get the Jimmy Butler experience. He's been great for them. Took him to the finals in the bubble. Like, I honestly, if it was any other team, I would say maybe cause for concern. But I don't know. The Heat are winning games. They're the number one seed. They have a strong locker room. And, shout out to Udonis Haslem. Everyone asks, why is Udonis Haslem still in the league? This is why he's still in the league.
Yeah, that's why he's there.
You need guys like that.
Yesterday, I think I said it in the Slack chat. I was like, yo, Udonis Haslem is old, but you do not want that smoke with Udonis Haslem.
Because how does that look if UD's not there? Who's speaking up? Who's mediating that situation? Or does it get out of hand?
The funny thing that I thought was hilarious, like as these things going on, you can sort of see Kyle Lowry just walking off, and he's like, my name's Bennett. I got nothing to do with any of this. But, yeah.
Oh man, he came from the happy-go-lucky, we're a family Toronto Raptors. That's not how they did things up there. So.
yeah, it was just hilarious. And look, shout out to Eric Spoelstra. Like you said, he did not back down either. No. He was going at it. He was throwing that clipboard. So look, I think they're going to be just fine. We'll see if Jimmy Butler ends up leading this team at the end of the season. If he ends up leaving, I'm going to blame it on Jimmy Butler. But we'll see. We'll see
they might go out in the first round of the Nets. So don't.
Facts. All right, BK. We're going to quickly talk about Zion Williamson before we look at these games for today. Now, he put up, I think it was on his IG stories, he put up a video of him dunking. We're going to show this. My man's looking healthy, BK.
Bro, what foot injury?
What foot injury? My man's looking good, but we're not going to see him this season. He's already, ruled himself out, or the team's ruled him out. So we have to wait until next season to see Zion Williamson back on a court, BK. But look, it's a dunk with no one guarding him in an open gym. What did you make of it, though? Because I was still impressed.
Yeah, I mean, following from that, there was some vision of him playing ones against Corey Brewer at practice. And, he had the crossover going and looked sharp, throwing it down. I know this is just a guy in a gym, but this is a guy that's been hurt for a long time, a guy that's had, issues with conditioning, and we've seen all the talk on social media. But, I mean, I was impressed because I thought he was cooked for the season. Like, there was reports that he wanted to come back and the Pelicans wanted to sit him. I think that is the move, just because, I mean, you're going to come back, maybe lose in the play-in, or even if you do get into the postseason, what are you going to come up against the Suns or the Grizzlies and get bounced? I don't think it's worth it for him coming back. If he can come back healthy next season with the team that they have, I mean, if I'm New Orleans, things are looking good. You've still got him under contract for a couple more seasons. If he can have another off season to get his conditioning right, to stay in the gym, stay in the weight room, things are looking good.
My biggest takeaway from that footage, and obviously you can't really tell, it just also appears that he's wearing some sort of a body suit or something around his waist. I wanted to see his conditioning in terms of where his sort of body fat level is at, because you were hearing these reports that he was 320 pounds and he was this and he was that. He looked like he's always going to be a solid guy because he's just, that's the way he is naturally. But he looked like he was in pretty good shape. Again, it was hard to tell from that video with what appeared to be some sort of, bodysuit around him. But the fact that he's still got that mobility and that explosion, I think that's great.
Yeah, he looked like Zion, which is I think the big takeaway. And the other thing is he's 21. Like this guy wants to drop weight. He can do that in a fortnight. Like he's got everything at his disposal to get in shape. But I'm not going to sweat him for for not necessarily being in shape during his rehab. He's got a whole summer ahead of him. I think he'll be just fine. This guy's 21 years old. He'll be okay.
Facts. Meanwhile, it took me like 3 months to lose 2 kilos. So.
Our metabolism is not the same, is it?
Not the same at all. All right, BK, let's take a look at some of the games before we get out of here. We've got a semi-quiet schedule today, only 5 games on the NBA slate. We're going to start off with Cleveland and Toronto over here. Toronto Raptors, $1.52 favorites. Cavaliers, 265 line is at -5 total at 214.5 live on NBA League Pass. Crucial game for both teams, actually. This is a 6 versus 7 battle. 1 game separates both these 2 clubs for that final guaranteed playoff spot, which they clearly both want. For me personally, I actually think this game's probably bigger for the Raps because I think they'd like to avoid Brooklyn in that, play-in seeding. I mean, I guess Cleveland would too. But I think the Raps are I think they're hungrier right now, BK, and obviously Cleveland's going through some stuff in terms of player personnel and injuries and that sort of thing. I'm going to go with the Raptors, BK.
Hey, you know I'm all about the Raptor life. I'm with you on this one. Scotty Barnes is playing really well. Pascal Siakam looks like his all-star self once again, and you're right. Like the 6-7 situation, the Cavs have won the first 3 meetings of this season, so the tiebreaker is already with them. But it's still a big game because they're within striking distance. Like there's only 10, 11 games left in the season, but they can still get that 6th seed. So the Raptors, for me, have looked probably better over the last week or 2 than the Cavs. But this is going to be a fun game.
It certainly is. And just for reference, the Raps are this actually surprised me. They're just 17-16 at home. I actually thought they would have had a better home record than what they do. Cavs 18-18 on the road for what that's worth. But I'm still going with Toronto at home today. Next game on the schedule, we've got Washington and Milwaukee. Milwaukee, as they should be here, favorites $1.26. The Wizards $4. Lines at -8. Total 229 flat, live on League Pass as well. Bucks had a huge win against the Chicago Bulls on Wednesday. Starting to look like the defending champs that they are, and I think they're hitting some form at the right time of season. They also did that one without Chris Middleton. He should be back today. They gained half a game on the 76ers and the Celtics as well, so giving themselves some slight breathing room there at the top. Kuzma out for Washington. Might as well stick a fork in the Wizards, BK, because they're cooked for this season.
Yeah, no Kuzma, no chance. But you're right. The Bucks do look like their old selves. Like they've kind of timed their run pretty perfectly. They haven't been healthy really all season, but they're getting all their guys back now. Giannis has kind of just been the one constant for them this season, and I honestly, like, we talk about all these other teams, contending for the title, especially from the Eastern Conference, while the Bucks are just sitting there as the defending champs. Like, hey, we're still good. Like,
BK, I have not wavered. I'm still going with Miami. I mean, with Milwaukee as my pick. So, shout out to our Greek and African brother over there in Milwaukee. Next game we're going to take a look at here, BK. Indiana and Memphis, not much to say here. Grizzlies $1.14 favorite. Indiana 6.25. Lines at -11.5. Total 235.5 there. Live on League Pass, BK. Grizzlies playing the second night of a back-to-back. I don't think it's going to matter against the Indiana Pacers because the Grizzlies are actually just that good right now.
Yeah, with Ja Morant, without Ja Morant, it doesn't matter. Is there a more fun team in the league than the Grizzlies? Like, just
no.
It's like a college team that's flying in the NBA. This is a really really cool story. I've been down for the Memphis Grizzlies even for last season, so it's been awesome to see them and the come up they've had.
Yeah, it certainly has. Like I said, that one's easy. I think the money's right bang on with that one there. Memphis Grizzlies easily today. Let's move on to the next game, which has some playoff implications as well. Chicago Bulls, New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans are favorites here. This one's at home for them. So $1.68 favorites. Chicago Bulls 228. Lines at -3. Total 224.5. Live on League Pass. Bulls coming off that loss to Milwaukee. They need a win too because they're only a game ahead of Cleveland in 6th. So these games definitely matter for these clubs here. New Orleans are one game back of the Lakers still, but they would definitely love to get a home court in a 9 versus 10 play-in matchup. Larry Nance Jr. actually expected to make his season debut against the Bulls. Brandon Ingram is out with a hamstring injury. Zach LaVine probable, and DeMar DeRozan is questionable with a strained left adductor, which I believe is why the Pelicans are favorites today. BK, who do you like?
If DeMar's in, I'm rocking with the Bulls. If DeMar's out, I'll go with the Pelicans. But I'm confident DeMar's gonna be there for that game.
Yeah, no, me too. And I second that. I think if DeMar DeRozan plays, the Bulls are just too good for the New Orleans Pelicans. Last game, BK, on the NBA slate for today. Phoenix Suns, Denver Nuggets. This one should be a pretty good one too, I think. Nuggets, slight favorites here, $1.90. Phoenix Suns, they've won 6 in a row, so they're $1.97. Lines at -1. Over under here, 232. Live on NBA League Pass, BK. They're 10-4, I believe, without Chris Paul. And that's just because Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton have been so good for them. Denver locked in with Minnesota in that 6 and 7 battle. Only one game separates those two as well. So they would definitely like a win today. Who do you like, BK?
I got to rock with the Suns. They've been on a roll these past couple of weeks, but this is going to be a close game. This is the game of the day.
Yeah, certainly. You know what? I'm kind of struggling to understand why the Nuggets are the favorites. Like I said, just given how well Phoenix have been playing, they've on that 6-game winning streak. I'm going to go with the Suns in a close one as well. I just don't see them dropping today's game, even though they're on the second night of a back-to-back as well.
Yeah, I mean, Ayton had a great game in their last outing, so that's going to be a fun matchup inside against MVP candidate Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll check back in on Monday morning, and we'll see how we did with our picks today. I'm sure we're both going to go. Did we agree on all 4 today?
I think we're in lockstep.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll see how we go on Monday morning. BK, we're going to catch you on Monday as usual. Have a great weekend, my brother. This has been another episode of the Last Shot NBA show here on Little Birdie TV, brought to you by our great mates over there at topsport.com.au. We'll see you guys Monday morning.